Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, you know who's with me riding shotgun. It's my main man, Reggie. What's up, Reg?
Hey, what's going on, Ken? I'm riding shotgun, man, but we're not doing any drive-bys, all right? Just cooling.
No.
Cooling and hanging out, man.
Stagecoach, right?
Stagecoach. Come on, man. We're already old guys. Let's not go all the way back to the stagecoach era, man. But
all right. Well, that's where shotgun came from. That's where shotgun came from, right? Whether you realize it or not.
I guess we're quickly losing cool points with our younger audience right now. So let's
sure.
Let's get on to it, man. So, but no, man, I'm good. I'm having a good time, man. Summer is officially here in the state of Texas. I think hell has arrived, and it is 1,000 degrees outside, man. And I am very grateful and thankful that I have a job that keeps me on the inside. That's for sure.
Yeah, it went from 91 degrees to 100 degrees within like 4 days. And it's maintained here. So I think we're in this for the long ride at this point of the summer. But now that it's summer, it's not too far away is training camp. And we wanted to kind of do a different show, right? There's not a whole lot going on in the football world right now, but we were able to meet and be guests on the show called BG Obsession or BGO Obsession. And we wanted to bring those guys on, and we're just going to do I guess call it fun and wacky show of just bold predictions. Some of them might be ridiculous. Some of them might come true, but either way, it doesn't matter. We're just going to have some fun talking about what could be. Some of it might be good. Some of it might be bad, but I just want to bring on Derek and John from the BGO. Thanks for joining, guys.
What's up, brothers? What's up?
I'm here to make you old guys feel a little bit less old because I'm definitely.
I know. I was about to text John and say we need to get our game right,
And I'm in North Carolina, and it feels a hell of a lot like I live in Texas. I'll just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I got in my car today. It said 103, so I feel your pain. DC is melting.
Yeah, and that's not like hot. DC. That's not like DC, right? But anyway, thanks guys for joining. Like I said before, these two gentlemen that are our guests also do a podcast on a regular basis about the Washington Commanders and everything that they have a passion for the Burgundy and Gold. You want to go ahead and pitch your show real quick, and then we'll get on with our big bad bold predictions the show.
Yeah, our podcast is BGO Blind Pig, and Blind Pig's kind of an old English term for basically a bar where people go and talk smack to each other, and back in old England. So that's why we call ourselves the Blind Pigs. But it's our official podcast. We have a website or a forum that we've had since 2009. We'll be celebrating in about a week, right, Derek? In about a week, we'll be celebrating our 15th year of talking and arguing and bitching and moaning and occasionally celebrating Washington NFL football. So we really do the podcast. It's mostly just to have fun with a bunch of our lifelong friends, but also to try to promote some traffic to our fan forum, because fan forums are dying, man. I hate to say it because we own one of them, but it's tough to get people off social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and get them to like really want to have meaningful conversations that are more than 140 characters or whatever it is.
Right.
So, but anyway, thanks for having us, guys.
Absolutely. And speaking of 140 characters, your Twitter handle that you can reach these guys are BG Obsession, BGO Obsession. The O is the obsession on it. They're on Twitter, and so you can reach out to them. Those that are watching this on YouTube, it's scrolling there across the bottom. But like I said, we wanted to bring these guys on and do some, we're the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads. So a lot of times when you do a bold prediction, it ends up being a knucklehead prediction when you look at it in hindsight. And there's a lot of changes this year, right? I'm sure you all have talked about it. We've talked about it. We have, from ownership to starting quarterback and everything in between is new, right? And so there's a lot of predictions to be made. There's a lot of optimism, but also a lot of things that could go wrong, could go right. And
half the team is new. Half the team is new, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're
we talked about it on our podcast. It's 60% of the roster turnover already, and we're not done yet. That doesn't even include camp cuts of guys that were currently on the roster last year that are still under contract. So
yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny because talking about that, I as I was looking at a few things here, we are about to start the 2024 season. If I go back to the 2020 and 2021 NFL drafts, a lot of these guys aren't on the team already, and if they are on the team, they're just
another guy.
Average guys or a little bit better. I mean, just for the first 4 rounds, you got Jamin Davis, Cosme, St. Juice, and De'Ami Brown. Now they're all on the team, but we had higher expectations for at least probably 3 out of 4 of those. And then the prior year was Chase Young, Gibson, Sadiq Charles, and Antonio Gaddy Golden. Who's that guy?
He was the Rubik's Cubes guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's, you see, that was just 2 years ago. I guess it would be 3 and 4 drafts ago. All these guys should be on their first contract and still be on the team, and with some, hopefully with some of them being home runs, but it's a lot of, singles and misses on the draft. So,
and
that last group you just said, so
Go ahead, Reg.
The last group you just said, none of them are even on the roster anymore.
Correct.
Right. 2020, nobody's left. Not only are they not playing,
we talk ourselves into these players that, that's what we do as fans. We want to see the silver lining in every draft. And so we kind of talk ourselves into the potential of the players that we've drafted. But that's probably the most compelling thing that you have to say with Adam Peters coming in, is they looked at this roster and they said, this is not going to cut it. I mean, that's pretty much a repudiation of the entire Rivera era, which I think Ron Rivera's a great guy. I'll always, send good thoughts his way, but I don't know how much worse you could slap down like an entire era of NFL football than what we've seen, which is almost every coach replaced, which is to be expected to a certain extent. But then the roster just pretty much wiped away clean for the most part.
Yeah, and I'm the same way, man. I wish nothing but positive vibes and good luck to Ron Rivera, the man. Now the coach is another story, but I don't know if you guys got a chance to hear our last podcast, and we had Lake Lewis on, and Lake Lewis mentioned that apparently in his circles, people knew that Ron Rivera was a plant by the league. I didn't know this. And it was a little bit
of pressure to hire him.
A little bit of a shocker. And from the league's office, Snyder did not hire Ron Rivera. The league brought him in, and that's pretty much had a role in why he had all the power that he had. And it had something to do with why when Josh Harris took over, it played a role as to why they didn't fire him right away, because the league wanted to allow Ron Rivera to exit stage left in a very reputable type way, instead of coming in and firing him and things of that nature. But yeah, Lake Lewis said that Ron Rivera was a plant by the league. I thought that was very shocking.
And that probably means that they saw the writing on the wall of what was coming, right? Like probably way before we would have thought they knew. Like they probably knew this was all coming in some form, like maybe 3 years ago even.
He was saying that it was to get a respectable guy to lead the franchise in the transition, which, because again, behind the scenes, it was to get Snyder out. But in the meantime, they wanted someone in charge that had a good reputation around the league.
Yeah. Which
Ron Rivera had. Yeah.
I mean, he's a man of good character, right? I don't think anybody is ever going to dispute that. And let's be real, at that point, that's what this team needed. Maybe more than a good coach, to save the team. You limp by a couple of years and you replace the coach, and as the ownership and changes and as things have played out. But with that, let's move over to the bold predictions. John, Derek, y'all can flip a coin, do whatever. Rock, paper, scissors. Which one of y'all want to go first?
I'll jump in. He knows. Derek knows I'm always going to talk first if I have a chance.
There you go.
I'm gonna set the low bar because although I do have one pretty bold prediction at the end here I'll mention, but I kind of looked at statistical, like bold predictions statistically, even though I know we're going to talk about maybe players that shock us, with one way or the other, good or bad.
Okay. All right, go for it.
But so I looked at two statistics, team statistics. So my first bold prediction is, Washington was dead last in the NFL in turnover differential in 2023. They were minus 14, which is, you got to work hard to get a double-digit negative turnover differential in the NFL with as much passing as going on. But we managed to do that. And my bold prediction is that we're going to be double-digit positive in 2024. So that would be a 10 or greater if you look at like last year's results. That would put us up there with like San Fran, Dallas. Dallas was 6, and San Francisco was 8th in 2023. Those were all 10 scores. So that would put us in the top 10 in the league. And the reason some people may say that's not very bold. Well, when you're last in the league, and what we've already talked about with all the massive change, including coaches, schemes, players, everything, I think it's a pretty bold prediction. The reason I went that route is I think the D is going to be vastly improved, and we've already heard Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. talk about ball hawking and taking the ball away and being physical and violent. And so on the defensive side, I think we're going to take the ball away a lot more than we have seen in recent years. And then the other thing is, although we don't know a damn thing about Kingsbury's offense yet, really, I think they're going to run a ball control offense with a lot of short passing. And we finally have some targets. We have some reliable targets at tight end. We've got brought in Austin Eckler, who's a really good receiving running back. I think Brian Robinson is a better receiving running back than we probably know. He just hasn't gotten much of a chance. So I think they're going to do like ball control, and they're going to focus on, we're going to drive it down the field. And we've already heard in OTAs that the ball is not hitting the ground much. Jaden Daniels has the ability to place the ball accurately, really accurately, which maybe Sam had some good aspects, but I think he struggled with that ball placement. So I just think that's going to be something that we're going to see. We're going to see a totally different turnover situation than what we saw. And then the second bold prediction I have is that kind of goes along with the same thing, but I think average time of possession, which, to be fair, we were not awful in 2023. We were 18th in the league at like 29 minutes and 32 seconds average time of possession, but we were last in 2022, like over 33 minutes. I think we're going to move into the top 5 this year for the same reasons that I think our offense is going to be very well organized. We have better talent, young and free agent talent. And I think our running backs are going to be a real strength for us. I think we were already pretty strong at the running back position, but bringing in Eckler, I think Eckler's a lot better than he's looked maybe recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we'll be top 5 in time of possession, and that would mean something like 31 minutes or more per game on average. And then my last bold prediction, this is where it's get ready to mock me, but I think we're going to be a wild card team in the first year of the Dan Quinn era. That's probably my boldest prediction.
Okay.
And one thing I just want to say to that is I think we talked about the inexperience and all of the, not inexperience, but we've talked about all the new pieces of this team from top to bottom. And that could be a big problem, but it could also poses a problem for opposing teams because there is no film on the Washington Commanders. And there won't be really significant film till, late in the year when we've maybe started to show some trends. So I think that's a huge advantage. So that's what I got.
I've said a few times that I think this team is going to be like the 2012 when we had RG3, where they came out with the RPO and the league hadn't seen it and didn't get a chance to. It was just catching everyone by surprise with Alfred and RG3 back there. And it wasn't until the next year when the league caught up with it where they did a better job at. It's still a big staple of the league today, But back in 2012, it was brand new, man, and it caught a lot of people by surprise. And so
the league changed rules because of that, right?
Yeah.
Because Washington doing it, and then a couple other teams with up in Seattle, they started doing it, and the young quarterbacks, it was a challenge. But
so with that, I do believe that our offense is going to be able to surprise a lot of people until we get some film out there, a few games under our belt. So, all right, well, good deal.
Yeah, John dropped all of them on us there. And I expect our defense to be significantly better, but when you're talking about double digit on the turnover ratio, that's an impactful defense, right? That's not just a very good defense, but that's an impactful defense. So yeah, I like the idea of it. I mean, Campbell always has aggressive teams, right?
Additionally, it's both sides of the ball. That means you got to reduce your turnovers on the offense too. So
right.
it's kind of a two-parter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well,
Derek,
I will piggyback just real quick.
Go
I
ahead.
will piggyback a little bit off one of John's, which is about the turnover and things. And one of my bold predictions is that the defense will finish top 10. I believe it. Defense will finish top 10 in the league.
Yeah.
That's a lot of positivity on the defense then.
That's a big jump, but I'm not going to argue.
Baby.
Look,
top 10.
The way I'm looking at it, and this will roll into mine later, I can't argue top 10. Like, first off, there's a lot going for it, and not to steal your thunder here, Reggie, but I could see that. We're going up against a weaker schedule, right?
Yep.
Than we've done in years past. We've turned over the entirety of the middle of the defense, the linebacking core, the second level. I mean, when I say middle, I think there's a lot there.
And the safeties, Jeremy Chin, Defoe is coming back. I think Quan Martin is going to be better in year 2. And there's one other guy I'm missing.
Quan Martin.
Yeah, Quan Martin's going to be there. Defoe is going to be there. Chin. Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling good about
Percy Butler.
Top 10.
Well, then if I can piggyback or jump in on this, I'll throw mine out there.
Go ahead.
For it.
You can do one, or you can do all of them, whatever you want.
This is going to make people scream, but my bold prediction is that the O-line will not be a liability in 2024. Everybody's freaking out about
wow.
Everybody's freaking out about the O-line. Everybody's freaking out about not addressing tackle more than we did, but I think a lot of that this is going to sound terrible, but that's recency bias. We were running an offensive scheme for the last 4 seasons, and I'm including Scott Turner into this, that we never saw adjustments to help the offensive line. And I think that's going to change. I think the offense is going to be schematically run to help take advantage or help mitigate some of those deficiencies. I'm not saying that the offensive line is good enough. I'm not saying our left tackle and right tackle. I mean, we absolutely need to address them. But I think coaching and I think some of the other things that we do throughout the course of the year are going to make up so much that I don't think if we go through a game and we lose, I think more often than not, we're not going to be circling O-line as being the priority or being the biggest reason why we lost. Where in years past, the last couple of years, we've done that. Where Sam Howell and Taylor Heineke are literally running for their lives. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot that we need to get done still. I think we still need to address left tackle. I think we still need to address right tackle. We probably won't do it before week 1. But I think there's a lot of things like that we can do to help soften that blow quite a bit to the point where the team is not losing because of the offensive line.
I just worry about the coach, the offensive line coach, because I don't know what we have in that guy. And I apologize because I'm old, I've already lost his name, but I know his reputation, like he was kind of one of the few coaching hires that the fan base kind of went, what? That guy was terrible in New York. So I don't know. That could be totally wrong. We kind of had the same conversations when Joe Barry came to town, right? And
He proved those concerns correct, right?
Bobby Johnson.
Yeah,
I think the issue with Bobby Johnson, of all the coaches that we hire, is because his position was terrible in New York, and I have concerns about him as well, but I don't know all of the dynamics and what the situation was in New York. But just statistically, they had a terrible offensive line, and so everyone immediately says the coach was bad, and so I'm just going to lean on the fact that Dan Quinn and those guys did a hell of a job of putting together the staff. Maybe they just know something that we don't know, and I'm hoping that he won't be the reason that the O-line doesn't play well here. But to Derek's point, I've also maintained that that I don't think the offensive line is going to be as big of an issue. I think play calling, scheme, and then just some of the players that we have, with Johnson, the running back, B-Rob, and then Austin Eckler being good blitz pickup backs. Then I think Jake Daniels' athleticism in the backfield will offset some of that. He can scramble, and it won't go down. It may be a blown coverage, but he can get out of it with his feet, and so that won't go down necessarily as a sack. And so I don't know that it'll be as bad. What I think will happen is the O-line will be better than it was, but they couldn't address everything in one off season. But I do think it will be drastically different next year. So I think they'll continue to look to upgrade it, but I think it'll be much better this year than it was last year.
I mean, kind of on that point, not that I know Jaden Daniels is different, right? But it's not like we had statue quarterbacks. Heineke definitely moved around, and so did Sam Howell. So, the idea that we got this ultra mobile quarterback is going to get him out of some stuff. And don't get me wrong, I think he's at another level of where his head is, where he'll throw the ball away, something that we didn't see Sam Howell do enough of. Definitely never saw Carson Wentz throw the ball away. But to piggyback on that, one of my bold predictions is I don't think that the starting left tackle is currently on our team. I think whether it's somebody getting cut, a trade, a move, the story of the guy out of Green Bay that had some injuries might be available. He's trying to rehab. I don't think our starting left tackle is currently on the team that we're going to have day one. Maybe it is, but it wouldn't surprise me if something is done to shore that up. It may not be significantly better than what we have, but it might have a whole lot more experience at left tackle for the last 5 years, 7 years, that the coaching staff and team can feel like they can count on.
It's funny you say that, because one of my bold predictions is Brandon Coleman would be the starting left tackle by week 4.
There you go.
I got it down.
Hey, we got it covered. We almost have it covered.
Here's the thing, guys. Which one of those is the insanely bold prediction? Either one of those is totally possible. That's the crazy part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think they want Coleman. I mean, look, if Coleman can be the guy, then they'll be happy. But I don't think they drafted him with the intention of him being the starting left tackle.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me question it is nothing has happened since. I mean, I would have thought if they were going to bring in a vet, they were not going to wait till like training camp to do it, or after training camp. I would have thought they would have already pulled the trigger, and maybe they've tried and they just couldn't work it out for whatever reason. But I don't know. I would love to know the answer to that question, though. If they really believe in him, and like he's just one of those doesn't really fit the perfect profile in draft, at the combine and stuff of a left tackle. But
right. Reg, you got another one you want to throw out there?
I'll throw one out. This ties into where we are in the media today. One, Brandon Ayuk. My bold prediction is Brandon Ayuk will be traded to Washington for John Allen.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I think the salaries, there'll be a little bit of a probably increase in salary due to Ayuk's contract, but for the most part, we'll be able to absorb the difference, and then they will roll with Johnny Newton, John Ridgway, and those guys as a rotational piece along, because we know Dallas likes to rotate their guys on the D line anyway. So between Fowler, Armstrong, Cleveland, I'm drawing a blank on his name, and of course Payne, Ridgway, Johnny Newton. We still got Fedarian Mathis and all those guys, and I think they'll just roll with those guys. So that's my bold prediction, that Brandon Ayuk will be a Washington Commander, and John Allen is out of here.
I'm going to make the bold prediction. There's no way that's going to happen, and for two reasons. Number one, I don't think this coming year he makes us very much better. I think there's a lot of gel coming up with the team. There's so many moving parts that we can only be so good. I know this is I'm putting a ceiling on how good we can be. I'm not saying we're
why. Why though?
Because I can go down the list. New quarterback, new everything, right? And new everything doesn't gel in 1 year. For that to happen, you need, not only do you need to catch lightning in a bottle, you need 4 or 5 bottles for that to happen. And I'm not saying that they can't have success, but to give up something for him when he's going to be a free agent next year, potentially, and you have to give up nothing, I don't think he makes us that much better. Number two, I think it's a bad vibe or bad look with him and Jaden Daniels, that the appearance that a rookie quarterback has influence already on player personnel moves and decisions. And it's, I mean, you can get him because he fits the team, right? But are we going back to RG3 and the influence that he had? He could go up and talk to Snyder, and now the new quarterback can go up and talk to the GM and have that influence. It's bad for the team, I think.
I feel you on that, Ken. And I think the other thing is, I don't think it's impossible that it could happen. But I think they drafted McCaffrey, Jahan Dotson. I think a lot of it might hinge on what they think of him. Like, did he just have a sophomore slump? I mean, he had flashes in his first year. It's not like he lit, but he showed promise. So they may feel like with the right, utilizing him correct.
John, you're freezing up, buddy.
We're losing him.
Sorry. I think it's more of an assessment year at wide receiver. So they might not be inclined to make a big move like that, but who knows?
I was going to say,
I think the whole year is a building / assessment, right? They're definitely building and trying to go, but there's also a lot of assessment. That's why they have so many short-term contracts also, right?
I would say this. First of all, it was a bold prediction, Ken.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
But if they do not make this deal and bring Brandon Ayuk to Washington, I don't think it has anything to do with the reasons you gave. I think it's more the fact that they're still trying to build and they're trying to bring this team together, and they don't want to do another big contract just yet. They want to see what they got, see how everything comes together. But it has nothing to do, because first of all, unlike RG3, I don't think Jayton has gone in to talk to anybody trying to push for Ayuk.
Absolutely.
Any of these things. And if you've seen the report, Washington has already had conversations with San Francisco about Brandon Ayuk, and I assume that they probably was asking for too much. So it has nothing to do with the things of the RG3 and going behind and going all that, and they're friends, and it's a bad look, because even in Philadelphia, right, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are one best friends. And when this happened, I think he was probably his second year, which is still one more year than Jayton, but I don't think any of that matters. I think if he's not coming, it's simply because the price is too high contract-wise, and they just not ready to spend big until they see what they got with this team. So,
well, the other layer to that is he would be the exception to the type of player that they've been bringing in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've brought in humility. They've brought in leadership. They've brought in team captains. And just now, he just literally within the last couple hours just posted on his Instagram, but I thought San Francisco said they wasn't trying to trade me. Like, he's stirring up stuff at this point. Like, he's
trying to get out of San Francisco.
Right, but then I wonder if Commanders brass is looking at that, saying, you know what, I don't even want to deal with that, and then we want to pay this guy $27 million, $30 million.
I guarantee you, Adam Peters has plenty of knowledge
of him because he drafted
guy he is. He already knows what kind of guy he is. So that, I mean, who knows?
And here's the thing. He knows what kind of guy he is, and we know they've already had talks with San Francisco.
Yeah.
So if he's not a Peters kind of guy, they're not having this conversation.
And talent makes a lot of those concerns go away. That kind of talent, man, you can.
Absolutely.
I mean, we forgave Jamin Davis for driving 140 in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. Yeah. They sure as hell are. I mean, I think he'd have to do a lot, Derek, to like burn bridges.
Let me just throw one more. Let me just throw one more in there. If Terry McLaurin was due up for a contract and was asking for $27 million,
due up for a contract.
He's coming soon, but not
he's in the final year of his money, his guaranteed money, right? Isn't this the last year of his guaranteed money?
It may be last year of his guarantee, but my point being is, if Terry was due and we were actually in the process of trying to negotiate a contract, and if Terry wanted $27 million, I think everyone would say give it to him. Brandon Ayuk is a better talent than Terry McLaurin.
I don't agree with that.
And everybody wants, and people are very ready to pump the brakes on Brandon Ayuk, but we give Terry that money in a heartbeat, right? And so to me, it's not about the money. It's about the money because he's not our guy. But Adam Peters, if nothing else, is very familiar with this particular guy. It's not like it's a guy coming from another team. He's very familiar. In fact, he had a hand in drafting the guy. So it's just a bold prediction. Do I really honestly think it'll happen?
No,
probably
it's bold.
not.
You're right. No, you're right.
But it's just a bold prediction here. And if it is, I don't think it has anything to do with his post or the optics of being friends with Jayden and none of that. I don't think any of that's going to matter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'll go ahead and do another bold prediction. And I honestly, depending on where you sit, you may not look at this as even being a bold prediction. Not only is it a bold prediction, but it's an early prediction. I'm going to go ahead and put the flag in the ground. Emmanuel Forbes is a bust. He will be a backup at best this year. He's going to make the team. I'm not going to say he's going to be cut. But he's a bust. If you watched him play, especially in person, you watch him on TV and he seems like he's turned around. You watch him in person, and I mean, he's lost within the first 7 yards, 5-7 yards. And I
see. Hang on, Ken. I see Derek writing over there.
You can blame the coaching, and that's a legitimate excuse. You can blame his size and inexperience. That's a legitimate excuse. But I'm just going 100% off of the eye test. Emmanuel Forbes is a bust.
Wow.
Well,
another Ron Rivera bust. Another Ron Rivera bust.
I think the thing that concerned me most about Forbes, and again, you never know, rookies do rookie things, but it was just how quickly his confidence was shattered. And especially at that position, I mean, it's kind of like Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels might not be the next big thing, but he acts like he is. And he has confidence that he is. And that's the thing, that when you draft somebody in the first round, especially somebody where there's concerns about his size and measurables, you better have the swagger, man. You have no chance in the NFL at cornerback if you don't have that confidence and that short memory where he got burned the next time you're going to pick the pass off or whatever. That's where, and I know last year a lot of our guys on our board were talking about, oh, we're Dick fans because we're so hard on a rookie and how, we don't understand how hard it is to succeed in your rookie year. And I mean, that may all be true, but I'm just saying, a first round cornerback pick and he has a couple terrible games and it's like his career's over. I don't know. I have a lot of doubts in my mind, but that's just me. I could be. He can make me look like a total jackass, and I'd be happy about that.
Funny you say that, because one of my bold predictions is that Emmanuel Forbes will make everyone forget about his rookie season, and he is going to turn it around. And the reason I say that is because, again, I believe coaching plays a role. We had a guy at a high school coaching our guys, and you saw St. Juice fall off. You saw it just like our secondary for some reason was just all out of sorts. And
it's not. Hold on. It's not for some reason. It's because we had nobody in front of them. We had absolutely no quarterback pressures. We had absolutely no pressure on any level of that defense. They were exposed.
I think
backs.
Hang on one second,
back there.
I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to have a resurgence the way Quan Martin. If you remember early in the season, everyone was just hammering on our second round pick. They couldn't believe that we used a second round pick on this guy, and Quan Martin was terrible. By the end of the season, Quan Martin should have started the whole year. He's our best guy, blase, right? I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to have a turnaround, and people are going to be celebrating, and they're going to forget about how terrible he looked in his rookie season. And I think he's going to perform a hell of a lot better under this defense.
I hope you're right, man.
It's official that Reggie and I are total opposites on every bold prediction today. All right?
I gotta double down. Hold on, before we move on, I gotta double down with Reggie. There's so much more that goes to playing secondary than just being able to cover the guy. Schematically, here's where I go back and forth with guys like Manny Forbes, and I actually wrote secondary will not be a liability, under O-line will not be a liability, because the two places that people are currently having questions about our offseason are secondary and O-line. We didn't do enough on O-line, and we didn't do enough in secondary. But here's where I'm looking at things. The team that, again, how can I question coaching, and how can I watch that shell zone defense with a 14-yard cushion on 3rd and 6 and then get mad at the guy for not being able to execute? Like, either the coaching is setting you up to succeed or it ain't. You know what I mean? Like, Forbes wasn't getting burnt all the time. He was getting beat by A.J. Brown, but I then go back to coaching, and why are there not adjustments being made to compensate for this? There's a lot of things that happen where guys don't match up well, and they might get beat. Then why are we asking him to continue to do the same thing over and over and then get mad at him when he can't do it? Right now, Manny Forbes is probably the fourth DB on the depth chart, right? I think Davis is a starter. I think St. Juice is a starter, and Stanford's playing nickel. So Forbes is going to have to push to get time on there. So if he can play well enough to even get playing time, I think that's where, to Reggie's point, he's going to make people forget, because he's not going to be out there covering A.J. Brown one-on-one, getting absolutely abused in the 5th game of his career.
I think
they never made any adjustments.
He was overdrafted.
Yeah, absolutely, he was overdrafted.
A lot of unfair pressure on him, because he clearly was not a first-round cornerback that was ready to go plug and play like a lot of these guys are.
And I put it like again, this isn't just during the beginning of the year. Obviously, he was benched for a while and then came back and saw some playing time, but when I consistently saw him during a game, and then if I focused and watched him, especially if there was any kind of, I start to say highlight, but really a low light, it was like, you playing football when you were in middle school with your elementary school brother, right? He got juked every which way. He just swing his arms out and miss tackles. He was not prepared to be a starting NFL cornerback. And if he is going to be a legitimate starting NFL quarterback, he's got a long way to go from where he finished last year. Let me just say that for him not to be a bust. He's got a lot of improvement to make to not be a bust.
I think coaching failed this kid last year. I really believe that.
I think coaching failed the whole defense last year.
Yeah. I know he didn't look ready to play at the NFL level, but again, I think coaching failed him, man. I really do. And to Derek's point, they never gave him help. They never gave this kid help. AJ was killing him. It's like Rocky, man.
Out in the next 2 seasons, if he's here for 2 seasons, because we got great coaches now. So it's not going to be. Right. We're going to find out. So,
right. And John, to your point, I agree. He probably was overdrafted, but there's plenty of rumors out there. You know who else was really interested in him?
Dallas.
The Dallas Cowboys. Guess who the defensive coordinator was? Dan freaking Quinn.
If you look at the Ron Rivera era in his drafts, it was always like they had to be, especially with a first-round pick.
Yeah,
they had to be cute about it.
Yeah.
I got this secret guy that you guys, we know he's better than what he is.
Right. You know? Like Ron has to be the smartest guy in the room. And there was that clip. I don't know if you guys remember the clip of Rivera talking about like, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. It's like, I don't ever want to hear a draft decision maker talking about who they want, who they're going to get, because you don't know who's going to be there.
Right.
You know? So anyway, I hope you're right though, Reggie. Cause he's an easy kid to root for. It's not like you feel terrible for him, even as frustrating as it was watching him last year.
It was hard to watch, right? Even as fans, man, it was hard to watch, see this kid get out here. And you could just see his confidence just oozing out of him. I mean, but with an off season, with some coaches and people working with him, playing in the SEC, man, that kid's been burned before and that nature. It's just, he just had to know that he can play at the NFL level. And once that comes back and with the coaching that's on the team, I think he'll be fine. They're going to make him earn it to the point that you mentioned. But I think iron sharpens iron, right? He's going to learn a lot from these guys. And I think he'll look better.
To that point, in a Dan Quinn defense, like we can only go by the past, right? A Dan Quinn defense, Joe Witt Jr. secondary, Trayvon Diggs has been widely viewed as one of the best DBs in the NFL. Why? He's taken advantage of mistakes and creating turnovers. How many times I watched him get abused his first 2 seasons in the NFL, including by our very own number 17, multiple times. Just flat out beat up, but he got those picks. If Forbes can get a couple picks, people start to look at him a little bit differently. If that D-line can create some more of those pressures to create some of those opportunities and he takes advantage of them.
Well, I think those, and I hope I'm wrong. This is one of the bold predictions where I definitely hope that I'm wrong, right? But I think kind of to your point about the interceptions, Forbes' reputation for pickoffs that were run back were just overhyped. Part of that is opportunity. You don't pick off a pass from 20 yards deep and take it back. Those are normally just your 5 yards out that you read properly. You cut underneath it and you go. And kudos to him, right? But I think too much emphasis was put on that as they did their draft evaluation. I'll flip it and go with something positive, an impact player from a person who I don't think is. We've kept on waiting to be impactful, but hasn't been. I think Jamin Davis becomes an impact player this year. The kid has too much talent, and you're talking about somebody who coaching will make a difference. Where it always boggled me that Ron Rivera was a linebacker, Jack Del Rio was a linebacker, and they never put Jamin Davis in a position to be successful. They moved him here. They moved him there. I mentioned, I think it might've been on y'all's podcast about Jamin Davis moving up to the line and being more of a kind of how Kerrigan did. He was a linebacker, but he was really a defensive end. That's how they're talking about using him. And I think that's going to be one of his best traits. Yes, he can drop back and into a zone and play some, do some reading on that. But I think Jamin Davis has the skills to be an impact player coming up. And even though they didn't give him a contract, he may not re-sign. Right? They may look and go, he's an impact player, but we've got other directions that we're going. I think Jamin Davis is going to have the most impact that he's had by far in 2024 for the Commanders.
That feeds into one of the Dan Quinn-isms that we've already learned about is finding out what guys can do, not what they can't do. And I think that's exactly what they're trying to do with Davis, is figure out, because we know he does some things very well, just not consistently, or we're not, like you said, he hasn't been put in a position to take advantage of the talent, because nobody's going to argue he doesn't have he's probably a top 10 linebacker physical talent. It's just the execution on the field that hasn't ever matched up with that.
Well, the streak continues, Ken, because it's not on my bold prediction here, but I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I got more hope that Emmanuel Forbes is going to turn this around than I do with Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis, we've been talking about his athleticism and his skill set since he's been in the league, right? And for him to be trying to change positions in a contract year, I think is a detriment. I think this is his way to stay on the roster. They're guys that are the KJ Henrys of the world, the Dante Fowlers, who are accustomed to rushing from the edge position, and Jamin Davis is not. He's trying to learn. Ryan Kerrigan was a kind of a down lineman at Purdue. So rushing from the edge was a natural thing for him, fighting off offensive linemen. Jamin Davis is not accustomed to that. They're trying to teach him to run around the hula hoop circle and get low and do all those things. Is he capable from an athletic standpoint? Yes. But there's a lot of guys at the combine who are very athletic. And I think Jamin Davis doesn't have the toolbox to be a great edge rusher. And I think he's going to try. He may make a play here and there, but I think this is awful for him. And I don't think it's going to be a good success the way I think a lot of fans think it will be. I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to have a better bounce back year than Jamin Davis is going to have an impact from the edge.
Well,
I could be wrong.
I'm not wagering any steak dinners on the Jamin Davis debate because I have no idea which way that's going.
And I could be wrong. Listen, clearly I could be wrong, but that's just my take on this whole. I hope it works out. I hope he has that Micah Parsons type impact coming from the edge due to his athleticism. But man, trying to learn a position on the fly as critical as an edge rusher. You got guys like Chase Young and Montez Sweat who couldn't get to the quarterback. And we're going to ask a guy who's never rushed from the edge like that to come out and be that. I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
But when they did send him, I know blitzes are different than running from the edge, but when they did send him, he had success on pressures, right? And
again, a corner can get a sack from a blitz. I mean, it can happen, but they're going to pretty much line him up just because of Bobby Wagner-Luvu. He's going to primarily line up along that edge, and it's not just going to be on a blitz.
Right.
And I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't see it.
I mean, I as I look at this, I'm just so surprised on how many swings and misses that Reggie has had so far. But we're going to go ahead and continue. I mean, I hate to say that about my partner, but when he contradicts me so many times, am I on here with my podcast partner or my wife? Contradicting me like crazy here, man.
I can't help it, man.
All right, my last one here. I could probably make a couple more, but my last one I'm going to make real quick. And somebody touched on it briefly. I think by mid-season, maybe a little bit earlier, I think Brian Robinson will be the primary running back. I'll go back prior to him getting shot. He was doing, if you go back and you remember, through the preseason and a couple of the preseason games, he was catching passes out of the backfield like crazy. I mean, just killing them. It's preseason, it's vanilla, I know. But it showed that he had the ability to catch. He was very smooth with it, smooth with running, and it was comfortable out there. And then all of a sudden the season came and they didn't. When he was healthy and back on, they didn't hardly use him at all. Last year, you saw some of it. I think Cliff Kingsbury, he fits into the Cliff Kingsbury offense. Austin Eckler is going to do a good job, but I think we're going to see more and more of Brian Robinson Jr., and he's going to have a elevated role in this offense than he has over the couple of years. I mean, there's plenty of places for the ball to go around, but we're going to see the best out of Brian Robinson this coming year.
I wrote his name down too, Ken, and I put down 1,000 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving, which would be a career year for him. Wow. So I'm with you on that one.
That's a hell of a year.
That's a hell of a year.
Bold prediction.
Yeah, that's a big bold prediction, but especially with what we have on this offense. I actually agree with you though, Ken, that I think that it goes back to coaching. I know we keep coming back to this circle that you look at the way that the team was coached and you wonder that there's all these opportunities out there that we seem to never take advantage of. I mean, so we were watching Brian Robinson catch balls. I've heard multiple people say he's capable, and they were watching him in camp say he's capable. But a Nick Saban offense in Alabama never asked their running back to catch the ball out of the backfield. They didn't have to. They had studs on the outside. Why would they throw it to the running back when you could have Jalen Waddle just carry it? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, in year after year, going back to now I'm spacing, but I think he can be utilized, and I really, 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 for the first time in a long time, hope we finally get to see two running backs on the field at the same time. We've been screaming for this since Chris Thompson was on this roster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Put people out there that make defenses try to figure out what you're doing and stop thinking about, you know what I mean? And then you create gaps. You create holes that way.
Right.
When they're focusing on the other things, you can play over here to this thing.
I think Cliff would do that.
Yeah.
I think Cliff would do that. I and then with God, I'm drawing a blank, man. We're all showing our age here, man. But the running backs coach, that was the head coach in
Brian Johnson
Chargers. No, that was the head coach.
Oh, Anthony Lynn.
And I think he's part of the running game. And I think Austin Eckler is going to be a big part of this. I'm excited to see both of those guys, and I think they'll both be on the field and being able to do whatever they do with that thunder lightning type effect, and having them on the field. I have no doubt, man. We're going to see both.
And I want to see it on every layer. I want to see Sanat and Ertz both on the field at the same time, right?
So I wanted to ask you guys a question because the only rookie that we really talked about tonight, I think, was Reggie was talking about Brandon Coleman and how he, has a lot of belief in him. Which rookie do you see having like a shockingly good season out of this?
Not Jaden Daniels, right? Not including Jaden Daniels.
Not Jaden Daniels. Let me think of Ken. You got something? Go ahead.
I think. I mean, there's a glaring opportunity. Is the tight end?
Senate.
Yeah. He
is it Senate or Senate?
I think Austin Eckler, not Austin Eckler. Ertz is, he's going to be a solid player. I don't think he's the player that he was 5 years ago. That's making these crazy plays. Will he make one here and there? Yes, but he's not going to be a dominant player. But I think there's an opportunity for him, for the rookie to come in and truly be an impact player. He's got the size. He's a very well-rounded player. If you watch his film up there at Kansas State, I think he's the one that, to me, that stands out as being a impact player.
Well, I hesitated because I was gonna wrap this up with 2 points, and I was gonna let you guys pick one. And the 2 points I had was Luke McCaffrey will be wide receiver 3 over Crowder and Brown.
2 or 3?
Wide receiver 3, because it's going to be Jahan Dotson, number 2. He's going to have a bounce back. I'm with John on that. And so wide receiver 3 is going to be Luke. He's going to secure that and lock it down. And my other bold prediction was Ben Sinnott was going to have a better statistical year than Zach Ertz.
I wrote McCaffrey down. I think San Ristel too could have I think they have a lot of belief in him. I just don't. I think
they were high on him.
Defensive back, as we've seen, it's a little tougher to have like that amazing rookie season. I think those guys usually take a year or two to really get going.
So, but to answer your question, John, between Luke and Ben, I'm gonna say probably Sinnott, because I think Luke, even with him being on the field, in the pecking order is gonna be Terry, right? And of course probably Jahan, in my opinion. But Ben Sinnott is going to have a lot more opportunities than probably Luke, given that he plays a tight end position, and we know Cliff loves to run 2 tight end sets. And if they're going to do that short game that people are saying they're going to do, they're going to be able to get that into either Sinnott or Zach Ertz, both on the field. So I think Sinnott will have a greater impact. But again, one of my predictions is that he's going to have a better statistical season than Zach Ertz when it's all done this year.
And he gets tight ends get used well in the red zone as well. So
and remember they made the comparison to Juszczyk, right? Who would get the ball quite a bit in San Francisco. So I can see them making sure they get the ball in his hand. So I'm going to say Ben Sinnott for you, John.
So I just wondered if you guys wanted to reference what the news that came out today, where Eugene Shen, and if we don't have time for this, that's fine as well. But
Go
Shen
ahead.
has been not let go, but it sounds like they're going to be moving him over to the Harris Blitzers Sports Entertainment Group, and he will not be over analytics. I thought Nikki Javala made a really good point. She said, look, they hired him before they hired the GM. So that was kind of a tip off, according to Nikki, that he might not be the permanent guy. He was just there to kind of like assess what we had, help with draft assessment, and then that it would be handed off to somebody else. So I thought that was interesting that came out today. And then the one I really wanted to get your guys' take on is they're moving Doug Williams back over to the football side. To his title is going to be senior advisor to the GM. And that kind of took me aback because I've kind of felt like they've tried to move Doug Williams away from the football side of thing for the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's how it felt to me. So that was a little bit of a shocker to me.
Well, let me say this from a Eugene Chen perspective. Recently, I think last week, it was a big deal about all these job postings that came out that was Washington was hiring for, and all of those positions had something to do with analytics. So it doesn't surprise me to hear the news that Eugene Chen has moved into another role, and yet at the same time, they have openings for these analytic type positions. So I think that's where this is going. Doug Williams, listen, I understand Doug Williams is a revered guy in our organization for all the reasons that we know. But if I'm being honest, I just want Doug to just be a face and a figure. I don't need Doug making any decisions. I don't need Doug advising anybody on anything. Yeah. Just go around and shake some hands and kiss some babies and sign some autographs, Doug, and just keep it going. Keep bringing the fans out. If you want to, you can talk to Jayden a little bit about what it's like to be an African-American quarterback. But in terms of talking about talent and giving anybody advice, I don't need Doug doing any of that. Just go shake some hands and kiss some babies. And I don't know what else he needs to do, but just stay out of the football side of this thing, Doug.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion.
I think Doug has a smaller role than what some people might think. And going back to the analytics, if you look also, now it didn't make very much big news, but kind of going in with the analytics and changing that personnel on that. I mean, the draft was over, and all of a sudden, a few weeks later, all the scouts one by one, I think there's at least 70-80% of the scouts have moved on. Adam Peters didn't keep many of them. And so it's bringing in your people, and not that they were good or bad, but it's people that you can count on, that think like you think, that are looking for the things that you look for. Adam Peters knows who those people are. He's been in the league long enough, had enough conversations, and that's what he's going to bring in to be successful, right?
Yeah. As far as Doug Williams goes, I agree, Reg. But then I'm looking at it, senior advisor to the general manager. And I started thinking about it. And did you guys watch that Commander's log that came out a couple weeks ago, where it was behind the scenes in the draft room?
Yep. And there was an exchange between Doug and
very little, though. Very little. There is no doubt who is the top dog when it comes to personnel and decision making when it comes to the roster. It's Adam Peters.
Right.
He talked to Lance Newmark for some things. He talked to Cliff Kingsbury. He talked to Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn. But it was his show. And I think that this is still kind of the same ilk. Marty Herney is still on the front office. And I was actually just looking as I got blinded by the Commander's website to see what his official title was, and I can't find it. But I think it's the same title. I think he's an advisor to the general manager.
Well, you make a good point there, because the advisor part, it might be like, what's the best appetizer?
Right. The GM has a lot more to do than just personnel. He's got to pick the uniforms for the games. He's got to redesign the locker room. He's got to do a lot of different things that have nothing to do with the football side of things.
And maybe it's just a title to have him on the payroll, man, or something. I don't know.
In my opinion, I would have rather him been let go of Jason Wright, and Doug Williams be that guy that's on camera at a stadium tour. Or why are you looking at me like that? Not a decision maker,
man.
Jason Wright almost left, right?
Yeah, Green Bay, he's like contending for the Green Bay team president job, is what I read.
Well, and to a little defense for Jason Wright, we don't know how much of this the last 4 years was him and how much was other powers that be. You just said earlier today that Ron Rivera was a plant, right? I'm sure Jason Wright was a plant too. Let's be honest here, because that's all part of the same regime shift.
I thought about that as well. When I heard that he was leaving, I was like, hold on a second. If the NFL had a lot of influence on Rivera, why didn't they have potential influence on Jason Wright as well?
I would almost guarantee they did. And if you look, the stark difference between the Sean Taylor Memorial and the things that we all had a problem with, and the way it went with Darryl Green.
I've got a list if you need me to go down them, but go ahead.
The way it went with the Darryl Green retirement, Jason Wright was still a part of these things. So I do wonder how much of that was him and how much of that was the previous owner or the lack thereof in the previous. It was a different vibe when you watch that video about the retirement of 28. Okay. That was done perfectly. Everybody, I think we can all agree, they brought in the family on their own dime. They did it right. They made it meaningful again. You watch that, and he's getting excited. There's rookies in the building. There's a mural of him in his Redskins gear with the Redskin logo and everything. I will arrive violently. It would just worked. So I do want to wonder how much of that Jason Wright didn't have the right ability or the right amount of leash to make these decisions. But back to that point, Doug Williams, like you said, Reggie, go ahead and wear your jersey, go to the suites, hang out with the people, hang out, be
corporate stuff. Do corporate stuff.
Be a mentor to the young players. But yeah, I doubt he's going to have any actual effect of the roster building or any real game day on field product effect.
I don't even want Adam asking his opinion about no player. Don't worry about what Doug thinks, man. Let Doug hang up in the corporate
about a player.
Suite. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let him hang up in the suites, do all the corporate stuff.
Yeah, and let him pick out what uniforms. Like, we wearing burgundy pants or we wearing white pants with our white jerseys at home this week? What's up?
That's fine. And I don't mean any disrespect to Doug, man, but I've been rooting for this team a long time, and again, I understand why Doug is revered by fans in his organization, but we need to keep it there and just let that be it. So,
and as much as we like Doug Williams, there's only one thing that we can semi give him credit for that we know that he did or didn't do, right? And that was bringing in Peterson, right?
Adrian Peterson.
Yep. He brought him in when we were had a hole, and he didn't even ask anybody, as the story goes, and brought him in, and Peterson did well here for a couple of years, filling in. But outside of that, I wouldn't even know, if nobody brought up his name, I wouldn't even know that Doug Williams was here for the past 3, 4, 5, 6 years, however long it's been. But
except wasn't he the one that said "We're the Commanders"? Wasn't that him?
Yeah. Well, they all. Yeah, that was a total.
And then that guy had that awkward laugh, right? Yeah,
that's Jason Wright, right? That's Jason Wright.
Ken doesn't like Jason Wright, guys. Just for
that is a whole nother podcast. We could
that
go
is an entire podcast. Yes, I could go down the list over and over and over again, and I understand there's potential to give him some passes or move the blame away from him. But man, under
Kim gives
his
him no passes.
there was a whole lot of mess ups, man.
He's Emmanuel Forbes of
a lot of them
NFL
y'all don't even remember.
What's that, John?
Looking at him as the Emmanuel Forbes of NFL executives, because you're going to take a guy who has a lot of promise and a lot of talent, but you're going to put him in the absolute worst possible front office in football as his first big gig. Thanks a lot. And, whether it was Goodell or somebody else who.
Yeah, he didn't have good ownership support for sure.
Well, I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys would find this shocking or not, but Ken and I have different opinions on Jason Wright. So, this would be a whole nother podcast if we got into it. But yeah, but man, guys, thank you so much, man, for coming on. It's kind of a short notice, but we appreciate you guys taking a few minutes, jumping on with us. And like I said, it was kind of a little fun, wacky type podcast we wanted to do, and just kind of throw some stuff out there and see what we thought about it. Obviously there was some good takes. Some were bold, some were like, okay, I can see that, and of course we debated them a little bit and things of that nature, which was good, which is what we wanted, to get a little conversation going about some of this stuff. But football, man, is around the corner. I know we're kind of in this dead zone right now, but next week is July 4th, and I think 2 weeks after that, we're literally got players getting ready to report to camp.
Rookies report the 18th, right? Yeah. And then veterans on 23rd.
Yep. Yeah,
and then
we're here, man.
The barrel of preseason at that point.
Yeah. So football is right around the corner, man. I'm excited, and I'm pretty sure you guys are as well.
Old Frostburg.
That's right.
The 1 year we were training camp was up in Frostburg,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think there's a lot of excitement going into this season for all the right reasons and stuff. So again, we appreciate you boys for coming on. For all of our listeners out there, please tune in and check these guys out. They do a good job over on their podcast. And guys, anything you want to say before you sign off?
I want to revisit next year around this time, and look at like how ridiculous our takes, and then mock the guys who got it totally
mock
wrong.
each other. Yeah.
I'm glad to have you all on, but I don't know if Reggie's going to allow it.
Well, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to say thank you for having us on, and I appreciate you guys joining us and hanging out with us a couple times on our side over there. And absolutely. I know you said I will say you said you'd let us shout it out one more time. So what I'll say is you can catch us on the Blind Pig podcast. If you're still listening, you can catch us at bgobsession.com. That's the forum site. That's our main site. We're on all socials. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and on audio podcasts. You can catch us on every audio platform as well as on YouTube. So please come by, hook us up. We always have a good time with these guys. It was just a happenstance that we ran into each other before the first game of the season last year. Yep. Ken and Reggie had literally, I believe, flown in that day, and we're over to Buffalo Wild Wings, and me and my drunk uncle stumbled over because they were wearing Commanders gear and sparked up a conversation, and we hung out for like 3 hours and then ended up meeting up at the tailgate the next day, and it was a good time. So, by the way, we witnessed the only home win. Right. Yep. We witnessed the only home win of 2023. I'm just going to put that out there if it wasn't for you guys. But thank you guys. It was a pleasure. It was fun to hang out.
Guys. Absolutely. So stick around for a few seconds, guys, as we sign off. Ken, that's all I got, man. So we want to appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening in to us. And until next time, peace out.
Peace out, Knuckleheads.